Superintendent for the Angeles District, and I want to welcome you to one of the two newest units of the California State Park System. I'm pleased that both of them are in the Angeles District, right here in the greater Los Angeles area. One is the Ripley Desert Woodland out in the Mojave Desert, and Santa Susana Pass State Historic Park. There's been a lot of talk for a lot of years as to what to even name this place. We wanted to call it Santa Susana Mountains State Park to recognize all the significant cultural and natural resources here. These mountains are 100 million years old. They were under the ocean for about 20 of that, but about 80 million years ago they became what you see today, and that makes them about twice as old as the neighboring Santa Monica Mountains or even the Himalayas. So this is a pretty significant place. But the historical theme is what really made this place a state historic park. Transportation, the railroad, the wagon roads, the Indians coming through, the Spaniards, the Mexicans, all the different people that have contributed to the history of this park have made this a significant place. Besides that, if we called it the Santa Susana Mountains State Park, we'd be wrong because we're actually in the Simi Hills. Santa Susana Mountains are just across the pass here. Charlie, how you doing? Charlie, you ready? You want to wait a few more minutes? I'm going to turn the program now over to Charlie Cook. Charlie Cook is the elder, or the chief of the Chumash people. This area was inhabited, this greater area was inhabited by the Chumash people, also the Tongva people, and they are both very much a part of the history of this area. And Charlie Cook is going to do an opening ceremony to help us bless the newest California State Park. Charlie?
Thank you very much, Dan. I'm just so happy that this has become a park, and it's been a reality to many people for many years. I'm Jan Hinkston. I first got involved in her back in the 70s, over the 7th Park. And I've worked extensively with the park system for many, many years, both in the National Park and State Park. And I'm pleased that this has really gone across and become a state park, because the more parks we have, the less land there is for development. So, but anyway, I just want to say it makes me extremely happy, because this area is my personal ancestral land. And I just can't get any closer to it than I am right now. My family is from here in the valley and up in Newhall area, and every time we save something, it's important to us, because every time we lose something, it loses part of our culture. So it's up to you guys to help us save our culture so you can learn from our culture. What I want to do now, I'm going to start with the white sage ceremony. And the white sage is a sage we use for purification, for cleansing, for blessings. And it's very significant, because once you get the sage on you, it gives you a better connection to Mother Earth. And that's why we're here today, for that connection. It makes you feel like you really belong, like you're really part of it. Because remember, you came from the earth. When you die, you go back to the earth. Everything in between, it comes from Mother Earth. So she is your provider all your life. What I prefer to do, I'd rather be out on the grass, but since we're on the pavement here, I don't have much choice. But because if you're out on the grass, on the dirt, you can really reach down and feel Mother Earth and really get a better feeling. But this helps you along. we do with this shell, we call the spirit specter. We start in the east and work around clockwise. And I'm not very long-winded unless as some of the people are with the horn, but I'll do the best I can. And when you do, remember our life usually comes in from the east with the morning sun, and most of us die in the evening, so it goes out in the west coast. The Chimash people believe our entrance to the spirit world is Point Conception. Entrance to the spirit world is right there. And so as I go around, I'll go to the east, south, west, and then north. Oh, grandmother, grandfather, thank you for being here and having us join together, all this fine people, along with the Native American people. We have a blend here that we no place anywhere we can have that same blend as we have here, races, religions, whatever. We join together here to help you preserve yourselves. Whenever we think of preservation, we think of Mother Earth and Father Sky. That is our whole being. So help us along as in our endeavors through life and endeavors in this life death. So help us always. Thank you. Oh. Would Jan come up, please?
You're not going to get away.
If anybody else wants this blessing, go off to the side while the commencement goes on. And I'll be glad to do it off to the side. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Charlie for his participation and the blessing. I'd also like to thank him for his kindness. The last part there, the sage program, the sage ceremony is a purification ceremony, and he normally offers me a double dose. Has me do it a couple of times. It's fitting that we begin this program with a blessing from the people that have been here for many, many years. One of the themes that we have in state parks is respecting one another's values and one another's contributions and what we can learn from each other, and especially respecting the land. And one of the things we have learned a great deal from the Native American peoples is respect for the land. It's also fitting that we're having this program. I'll mention it a little bit more as we go down the roster of speakers, but it's very fitting that we're having this program in the parking lot of Chatsworth South Park, which is part of the City of Los Angeles Parks Department of Recreation and Parks, in that the Santa Susana Mountains Santa Susana Pass State Historic Park. I'm still trying to go back to the old name we thought about, but this park is a product of the cooperation of many people, and you're going to see some of the early people that made contributions to this park. But many of the people that have brought this together could not be here today, but we want to think about them in the spirit of all of us working together. January was the exact date of the commission meeting. January 28th, 1998 was a significant day. It was the day that this beautiful mountain range behind you became a unit of the California State Park system. It was the culmination of many years of work, but it was also the first day of a whole new history of being a state park. When you put something in the California State Park system, it gets on the map, so to speak. We're going to have a lot more visitors, a lot more interest in this park, and we're going to have to do a lot more to take care of this park. That's where these partnerships will come in. California State Parks, hopefully this will get us really moving, and we'll be doing a lot of exciting things here. But we really need that partnership with the community and with other agencies of government. And that's why I'm so pleased. First, I'm honored to have Congressman McKeon here today, but I'm also pleased to have not only the congressman, but the representatives of the other governments here, because by their presence and honoring this ceremony, they're also showing their support for making this park work. And it's going to be a very important part of the community. It always has been, but more so now with the visibility it will get. And working together, we can take care of this place, we can tell people about it, and we can hopefully provide a presence and maybe discourage people who haven't quite yet learned to appreciate it, how they might either do a better job of that or maybe do a little bit less of some of the things that have gone on that have been harmful to the park. But without further ado, I'd like to, it is my honor to introduce Howard Buck McKeon, our congressman.
Well, this is a great experience for me to be here with you, and I hope you're not all getting sunburned out there. I don't have much covering, and so this is a big help to me. But, you know, this is the first time I've been to this park, and I've just been thinking a little bit, watching you and watching some of the things that are going on and looking at the different kinds of activities. Some of you are here sharing in the history of the area. Inside we have young people playing basketball. Out here I saw a young man flying a kite. I saw people horseback riding down the trail. We have a dog obedience class going on. all of these different things, none of us hurting each other. There are even some people up there that are just lying down enjoying nature. And that's one of the beautiful reasons why we need parks like this. This is so that people can enjoy those kind of activities, but also those who want to preserve our history, our heritage, can participate through that. I was able to look through the telescope and see the sign up there where the stagecoach run was. I don't know if you've had a chance to ride a stagecoach from LA to San Francisco. I have not. I may look that old, but I'm not quite. But over 100 years ago, that was a road from San Francisco down to Los Angeles, and they informed me that it took 72 hours, and people that have been up on that trail told me a little bit about it, and how treacherous it is, and how coming down the pass, they had to get the passengers out of the stagecoach and hope they made it down, and then going back up, they had to get out of the stagecoach and help push to get it up the hill. Interesting history. A few years ago, I took we have 6 children. We took our family on what we called a roots vacation. I wanted our children to go back and see where my parents and my wife's parents came from. We went up into Idaho, into Utah. We went up into what used to be a thriving mining town up in the hills. My dad was born in Milford, Utah. Milford is kind of the end of the civilization, and where his dad was born was up in the mountains they called it Frisco, and there were at one time 5,000 people living up on this hill mining. And I went back up there and I saw the mine. I saw where my grandfather's 2 brothers were buried that died when they were born, and my uncle that was with us told me of experiences. We think sometimes we have problems getting along with each other. We don't appreciate each other's race or ethnicity. He said when he was a little boy, they would hear gunshots at night, and if somebody from Irish went into an Italian bar, or vice versa, they would shoot them, just drag their bodies outside, and in the morning somebody would clean up. We've come a long ways. We still have a long ways to go, but we've come a long ways. I want to thank the Chatsworth Historical Society, the Santa Susana Mountain Park Association, the Foundation for the Preservation of the Santa Susana Mountains, all of the groups and all of the individuals that have worked so hard to make this a reality so that we can come out here and just have a pleasant day like this. I was at an earlier meeting and I said I forgot to take credit for the sunshine, so I want to make sure I do that today. I understand we've had rain this week. We also had rain back in Washington, so when I flew in yesterday, we brought the sunshine and the cloud that just came over now to kind of soften the sun. You know, if you're a politician, you take credit for all of those things because you get blamed for everything else. I just want to thank you for coming out here today, and for those who have worked so hard to make this a reality. This is my first time here. It will definitely not be my last. I think there are times when I want to come here and just forget politics and just go out there and lay down and just contemplate the rocks, contemplate the past or whatever, and now it's possible because it's here. And we're not finished. There are other things that we need to do to preserve rocks. I want to thank Charlie for the blessing. A few years ago when we were working on saving Ellesmere Canyon from being the largest dump in the world, he came out, we put on a little program when we introduced our bill, and he gave us all a blessing that day, and maybe that's why we were able to get our legislation passed and make sure that that will not become a dump. So I want to thank him for all that he does to preserve our land and our heritage. And again, thank you and all those who have made this possible.
My pleasure to introduce a representative from another level of government, the state of California, which is the organization that I work for. During my years as a superintendent for state parks, during the last 10 years anyway, I have certainly enjoyed the support of Assemblyman Tom McClintock for the parks in our area. He understands them, he cares about them, and he's here today, and I'd like to welcome him. Thank you.
Sorry to be a little late. I had a flat tire on the way, so I had to hobble in on one of those crutch tires. I'm looking back at all the years that have passed since I went to work for Ed Davis. This was back in 1980. And shortly after he took office, we got a call from Jan Hinkston, who had this crazy idea that maybe the Santa Susana Mountains ought to be Santa Susana Mountains ought to be a state park. And she said, we're going to have a press conference with the state director of parks who's coming down from Sacramento. Can you and Senator Davis be there? And I said, well, yeah, I think so. And I checked. And unfortunately, I was still new at the job, and I didn't check any farther than that. So we come rolling in right about to this very spot. And Jan didn't tell me it was a hike. So Jan and everybody were in their jeans and their hiking boots, and Senator Davis I had arrive in his suit, and I'll never forget tagging along behind him as he was marching through the brambles with his suit and his pipe in his mouth, and didn't say a word the entire time until we got back. He said, "You know, that was a hike." And that was 17 years ago now. And here we are today in 1998 to dedicate the Santa Susana Pass State Historic Park. The Chatsworth Coordinating Council last night honored Jan Hinkston for all of her work. As I look back over those 17 years, I realize just what a monumental effort that Jan has made to bring us to this day. I said last night, and I'll say it again, I think that perhaps every mountain needs a friend. The Sierras were very fortunate to find a friend in John Muir. The Santa Susana Mountains were just as fortunate to find a friend in Jan Hinkston, and I do want to salute her. And I also want to present as a memento of this occasion, both to the Chatsworth Historical Society, the Santa Susana Mountain Parks Association, and the Foundation for the Preservation of the Santa Susana Mountains, certificates from the State Assembly recognizing their work to bring us to this day. And I do thank all of you for being here.
Thank you, Senator McClintock. We also have a state senator representing this area who also cares very much about Santa Susana Pass State Historic Park, Senator Kathy Wright. She couldn't be here today, but she too sent along a certificate with a note. It says, "I'm sorry I will not be able to participate, but please present this certificate for our dedication." And it's from the State Senate of the state of California. Beautiful certificate of recognition for Santa Susana Pass State Historic Park. Signed, Kathy Wright, State Senator. As I mentioned before, partnership is a very important thing. The state of California and the federal government do their part in the parks by providing the beautiful state parks and national parks that you see. They also do their part by having grant programs that help local agencies provide parks. So obviously another thing that local agencies do is participate in the provision of the parks and the programs, like this beautiful park that we're in right now. But another thing that cities and counties do is help us to plan the communities so that we have a vision of what should be set aside for parkland and what should be protected for future generations and how that works together. I don't go quite as far as Charlie and say that one of the reasons I like parks is because they stop development. I would prefer to say that we work with the entire community to make sure that people do have the ability to develop homes and businesses and do all the things that they would like to do, but they do it with an awareness and a partnership with the parks. And one of the key people in this area that helps to forge those kind of partnerships is Hal Burnson. And here representing Hal Burnson today is Sandy Clydesdale from the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you and good afternoon. It's really too bad the councilman couldn't be here today, and he does send his regrets. He was at the coordinating council event last night, and he couldn't make it today, but he really missed the blessing, and believe me, as a politician, they need all they can get. And it's been my privilege to be able to work with the coordinating council and the Chatsworth Chamber of Commerce, and I live in Chatsworth, just the other side of Topanga Canyon, so I get to look at these mountains every day. And it's been such a thrill to just be able to look out my window and see these mountains. I never realized, I was born in Santa Monica, but I never realized just how beautiful rocks could be. And this is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in California. And it's my privilege to present to the park, City of Los Angeles, State of California, Happiness is Santa Susana Pass State Historical Park. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much. We have a few more speakers. Now we're going to get to the people who actually did the work and got things done. It's been an incredible partnership of a number of groups here. It's amazing to me how everyone manages to work together and keep each other informed and do a pretty good job of it. I'd like to start with Jeff Johnson. He's the president of the Santa Susana Mountain Park Association. And before I bring him up here, I would just like to say that all of the groups are important, and so the most dangerous thing to do is stand up and recognize one group or one person for fear that someone else will feel that we didn't recognize them. Hopefully we will recognize as many people as we can today. But I would just say that the job that these folks have done, leading hikes in the park, providing a presence, agitating for the park, letting people know it's out here, beating the drum, we wouldn't have this park today if it weren't for this group. And so I'm pleased to welcome John Thorpe.
Good morning, everybody. I'm the president of the Historical Society, and mainly I'm talking on behalf of the board and all the other helpers at the museum, which is just on the corner down there as you come in, which is open the first Sunday of every month, 1 to 4. And I must say, Tom McClintock praised Jan Hinkston and compared her to John Muir, but I think she's better looking.
Thanks, John.
So,
Thank you, Jan.
yeah. And I would also want to thank Virginia, who has been, she's our curator and letter writer and big pusher for the Historical Society. The lady here with the purple dress on. And we talked about the beauty of this area, which right now it's very green, I guess due to El Nino, but it does recall the Chatsworth Park in Derbyshire, England, where it was named after the ancestral home of the Duke of Devonshire. So it's interesting to see when it's nice and green like this. That's about all I have to say, I think. I want to thank all the dignitaries for coming. And last night, as I said, we had a good do at the Coordinating Council. Thank you.
The Historical Society does do many of the same things, but speaking for the Santa Susana Mountain Park Association is Jeff Johnson.
Thank you very much, and thanks to everybody for coming here today. I'm just in this position with the association at this moment, but there's been several past presidents, there's been several members throughout the years who have spent a lot of time and effort and a lot of their own money going to meetings and going to other things related to open space conservation, and every single person that showed up who came here and went to one meeting or stayed with the group or was on the board for 1 year and then moved out of the area, this is the culmination of all those people's efforts. A lot of people that came and went from the state park district who worked in the area and left and talked the area up. And a lot of, we have Joe Edmiston here from the Santa Susana Mountain Conservancy. The Conservancy is mostly responsible for all the conservation from here to Hollywood and out to Point Magoo and out to Santa Clarita. And it's people like Joe who work their tails off and live for this type of cause. And there's just, everybody here deserves thanks. So I hope that when you leave, no matter who you are, you thank everybody else for coming here, because taking the time out of your day is very important. And everybody here can help in any way they see fit, whether it's talking with their neighbors about this great park, or whether it's reading the paper and writing a letter to the editor once in a while, or one thing I espouse often, which I'm guilty of not doing very often, is writing a letter to a congressman or a city councilman. I've talked to several over the years who say, gosh, you know, we get so few letters on these types of things. They get hit by lobbyists all the time, but it's the citizens who put them where they are and who they are very accountable to. And to that extent, I want to thank Congressman McKeon and Tom McClintock for coming, because I think they probably get maybe a dozen requests per day, or maybe that's even understating. I think they get requests to do things like this every day, several of them, and you see that some people sent letters today, and that was terrific, but to actually come and be here and to appreciate all of us and all the people that work so hard, it kind of tells you how significant this event is. And 27 years of hard work, and if it wasn't for someone like Jan Hinkston, who lived and breathed these type of things, we wouldn't be here today enjoying this. So I want to thank Jan Hinkston again too. I know we'll be doing it all day, but thank you very much, Jan. You'll see I'm wearing my Corriganville shirt, and that's over in Simi Valley. Corriganville has the property which owns the other half of the Stagecoach Trail, and that park was just dedicated 2 weeks ago out in the city of Simi Valley, land that of course the Conservancy obtained and then worked it out to deal with the city of Simi Valley to take over. So it's a very exciting time for these mountains, and we hope that all of you will keep an interest in what goes on here. And if you don't have time to come to our meetings or to send us money or buy our shirts, just talk with your neighbors. And you know, I think for me that the most disappointing thing going on in our world now is that somehow, you know, tree huggers and conservationists have been confused with being soft and being weak. And I see it completely differently. I think it takes a strong person to care about nature, and it takes a strong person to care about future generations. So please, at every corner, every day of your life, please do the best you can to promote not only these mountains, but all the mountains and all of conservation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I too would like to welcome and thank Joe Edmiston and the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy for being here today and for all that they do in this area. One of the things that is important to us, and people come to us and say, why is it you folks in government are always trying to create new things? Because they hear that one of the things we're trying to create are wildlife corridors or linkages between the parks in order to protect the connectivity of those parks. The fact is, in that case, we're not trying to create anything. We're simply trying to preserve what already is. These mountains were all tied together. They were all part of a big system with the lowlands and the highlands, and that's where the animals moved back and forth and found their food and lived their lives. And as our areas are developed, they become islands, and the animals can't move back and forth. And some people might wonder, well, so what? You know, we originally had a plan in state parks to develop this string of emeralds around the cities, nice, beautiful parks that weren't really connected. They were just out there. And now we find out it's absolutely essential that they be connected, or the larger predators in the parks will disappear. And then you wonder, well, what's wrong with that? And the answer is, we all remember the Roadrunner cartoons where the coyote was always trying to get the Roadrunner. In the real world, the Roadrunner is actually the coyote's best friend. Now, he will eat the coyote, I mean the Roadrunner, if he gets the chance, and he'll eat his eggs. But the thing that eats most of the Roadrunner eggs and the Roadrunners are the rodents. And the coyotes, the mountain lions, the bobcats keep these parks the way they are. And we've had experiments around California and around the world where we've created these little islands, and they're not working very well, folks. So people like the Conservancy, who tie all of the parks together and have a vision for these connectivities. I don't think that's a good word, but you get the point. Anyway, thanks, Joe. It's good to have you here. Another group that's been very active here in the Santa Susana Mountains is the Foundation for the Preservation of the Santa Susana Mountains. Their role is similar to the others in some ways, but they are specifically interested in helping us to put this park together and to create a park, which is a great success, but their job is certainly not done because there's still a lot more to do. And I'd like to introduce Nancy Rosansky.
Good morning. I am Nancy Rosansky, current president of the Foundation for the Preservation of the Santa Susana Mountains and past president of SSMPA. You know, Jan Hinkston came to the Rock Point Homeowners Association, that big complex over there. Other people were saying, oh, Rock Point moved in, you know. Oh. Jan says, look, they're here now. They're going to help us save the rest of it. So she came to us with a slide presentation to get our big hikes up here. And that was December of '70 when she came to us, and I signed up as a hike leader. Mom says, hey, this will be great. It's a good recreational activity. Get out and do it. So I did. And it took a whole year to plan those hikes. And in 1972, in January of '72, we had the first big hike, and then in June. They were a major success, no injuries, and we had over 10,000 people up the trail. So that's how I got started, about 1971. And right now, I'd like to thank my current foundation board because they are wonderful. Jan Lazick, vice president, and my right arm. And she is also the chairman of the Children's Docent Program. Lindsay Wilhelm, our treasurer and fundraiser and grant writer. She gives up 110% of her time. We have Greta Davis, our recording secretary, always ready to help. She's got her camcorder out today. And also prepared our document. Lisa Nicholson, who couldn't make it because she's got a PhD, and her students at a seminar somewhere came first. You have to understand that. A dedicated teacher, professor. And also we have our San Fernando Valley area chair, Ed Gooley, the newcomer. He is biology, has a biology degree, and he is very promising and very helpful, and will help Lindsay with grants. And we have Pearl Turbush, our Simi Valley area chair. And she is our parliamentarian, has been here since '71, been the president of SSMPA and Foundation. Good fundraiser, hard worker, and brains. And we have our members at large, and last but not least, Santa Clarita area chair, George Reapy, who couldn't be here today because he could not get off work on a Saturday. He has a very strict, he works for a prison. He works as a librarian in a prison. So he couldn't make it today, but he gets off on Mondays and Sundays. So, but Jan couldn't be here on Sunday. So. Anyway, okay, then we have our members at large. We have Judy Garris, who does hikes, does mapping, and wonderful photographer. And we have Audrey Hedlund, another wonderful photographer. You should see the foundation display. You should see all our photographers over there. We got photo credit for all of them. They're wonderful, and I'm so proud of all of them. And I'll tell you, on behalf of the Foundation for the Preservation of the Santa Susana Mountains, we wish to present the state parks a seed grant of $1,000 to be used only toward the purchase of a permanent sign. The sign is to inform the visitors of the new Santa Susana Pass State Historic Park. This is to be considered as a contingency fund. With great pleasure, Nancy Rosansky, president of the foundation, Lindsay Wilhelm, treasurer of the foundation, and Greta Davis, recording secretary of the foundation, have signed this. Thank you very much. We're proud to do it, and we're going to do some more grants. You got to help us, people. You got to support us so we can give them some money to build this park. Thank you.
I was hoping she'd give me the check.
There you go.
That's okay. You hold on to it for now, but thank you very much. Absolutely. One more thing.
Two more things.
Two more things.
Joanne Kerbavis is marvelous, and she is our resource ecologist who helped us put together our scientific study that allowed us to get our state park designation. She's here today. I'm so happy. There's a picture of her on the display, and also Robert Baxter, who's with land acquisition. I've spoken to him over the phone for 9 years. I met him today. It was wonderful. He came too. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Nancy. In fact, while we're at it, I'd just like to recognize all the state park employees that have worked to make this a success, and who will work to care for this park and to help you to promote it in the future. We have a booth over here where Mike Ellen and Stephanie, two of our interpreters are here. This is California State Parks Month. Please look at all the booths, pick up literature, and learn about all of our various organizations that we work with, and also learn more about your state parks. This is a place where a lot of people are going to take their first baby steps into California state parks and hopefully go on to see a lot more of their heritage in the national parks, the state parks, the great forests of America. And they'll start it all right here. I'm going to skip over in the program Jan Hinkston to get to three other speakers, and then we're going to end by letting Jan speak last. The next speaker is Helen Trend. She's the founder of the Chatsworth Reservoir Conservancy. She leads children on hikes to learn about the animals and the plants in this area. When she introduced herself to me, she said that she'd been working with Jan for 30 years. And I think that's an incredible amount of contribution to these mountains, and so we're really pleased to have her here. Helen, would you come on up?
I'm here today to speak about Jan, basically. I met Jan 30 years ago, and at that time she convinced me that we needed to do some work. And I said, okay, I'll come to your house. And Jan and I are both teachers, and during this time we had very little time, of course, and we didn't have a lot of sort of what I call finesse in working with politicians. So I went over to her house up on the hill, and we walked into, she said, come into the living room, and I came into the living room, and there were like 900 boxes stacked in the living room. There was no place, we sat on the floor. And I stayed till about 2:30 in the morning going through all these boxes, looking at all these letters that she had written to different people about whether or not we could make a park out of this area. I walked away overwhelmed. I could hardly drive down the hill thinking, oh my gosh, how are we going to ever do this? The next thing she said is that we had to meet with some politicians, and we were going to take them on a hike up the Stagecoach Trail. And who was going to be there but Warren Dorn? And I said, maybe I shouldn't go, because at that time I was fighting the City Park and Recreation and the Flood Control District and the City Hall in trying to save a natural stream bed. And of course Warren Dorn had to be one of the votes that we needed. And she says, oh yes, please come. So we're hiking up the hill, taking all these politicians up the hill, and Jan is doing her speech, and we're learning all about everything, and as we go. And all of a sudden he turned around to Jan and he said, by the way, do you know Helen Trend? And she says, oh yes, she's right here. And he turned around and introduced himself to me. Well, the next morning I had to go down to the county and make a presentation to save the natural stream bed. And Mr. Dornan, of course, was one of our votes. He got up and he talked for 15 minutes about why we had to save this natural stream bed. So I called Jan later, and we had lunch, and I said, I learned something from you today. I learned that lobbying really works. And that's why I'm talking to all of you today about lobbying. I never knew how to lobby. I never knew that you had to go down and testify. The next thing that came up was the oak tree ordinance. And I had to get all the votes from City Council. So I remember what Jan said. She said, you had to lobby. Helen, you've got to go down and talk to each one of these. So I spent 2 days going back and forth to all the politicians, telling them what we wanted, and I got to Councilman Lindsay's office. And when I was at Councilman Lindsay's office, I had sat there all day. I had been there almost 6.5 hours, and I still didn't get to see him. And finally he walked out and he said, what do you want, young lady? And I started to tell him. He says, he looked at his watch and he said, I have 4.5 minutes. He said, tell me what you want in 4.5 minutes. So as fast as I could, I talked about the oak trees. The next day at City Council, Councilman Lindsay got up and he talked for 25 minutes about oak trees and why the oak trees should be saved. And I was stunned. I mean, I was literally stunned. He must have gone home and read every book there was on oak trees. So I'm here today to let you know that each section is important. And we learned a lot from Jan. We learned how to lobby. We learned how to get out there and fight, even though she said, you know, this is impossible, but come and do it anyway. And so we did. The last thing I'd like to tell you is that during the time that she was instrumental in getting the Chatsworth Reservoir Conservancy started, she saved the ecology pond. She went down to Water and Power and she convinced them that we had to save this little pond of water. And then she said, Helen, I don't have time to do this, so it's going to be up to you. So we started the Chatsworth Reservoir Conservancy, and we started with the tours. Well, I also remember I had to go down again to City Hall and talk to Councilman Lindsay. And he said, why should I vote for this thing? And I said, because we're taking school children through. And he said, what do you mean you're taking school children through? You're taking Valley school children through. And I said, no, we're taking the whole city and the county and whoever else wants to come through the reservoir. And he said, well, what about my kids in South Central LA? I said, they're extremely important. We want them there. So the next day he did the same thing. He got up and he expounded for half an hour on the importance of open space and saving the Chatsworth Reservoir. And again, I was stunned that he became educated in just a lesson of 3.5 minutes. He was a swing vote, and that to me is very, very important. Every person that is a politician is a swing vote, and the swing votes count. Just like Mr. Dornan's presentation, I'm hiding in the corner and I say, I'm not coming because he'll know who I am. Jan says, no, you got to come, you got to be there. It was a vote that counted. It meant a lot. In the reservoir, I think by ending my speech today, I want to tell you about an experience that I had last week. We were taking Justice Street School elementary school kids through the reservoir. And in this group, we had a boy from Pakistan who had no idea what the outdoor was. I mean, he thought he was going to see lions and tigers. In the process of planting a small oak tree that children had raised from the oak seedling program, a grasshopper jumped on him and he went hysterical. He was hysterical, sobbing. You know, this creature had jumped on him. By the end of the hike, he was leading the hike. He was telling the kids every plant there was, every bug there was. He was in charge. And I thought, Councilman Lindsay was the most important one, because he said that it's true, it's for everybody. And that's what I want to say to you, is that all of you that have worked so hard, and whether you babysat, whether you stayed at home and made a telephone call, whether or not you went down and screamed and hollered at the politicians, whether you lead the hikes or what you do, it's important. Thank you very much.
The Los Angeles Times does an article every now and then, I'm not sure how often, but they call it Personal Best, a close-up look at people who matter, and their most recent honoree was a person they called the Oak Tree Lady, and that was Helen Trent. May 14th, 1998. Next, I'd like to have a speaker come up. I mentioned the connectivity of the parks being linked together and how the Conservancy has helped with that. It isn't only for the animals to move back and forth. It's nice to have trails so that the people can move back and forth and enjoy the parks and have adventures. And Marge Feinberg is the founder of the Rim of the Valley Association. Marge?
It's wonderful to be here and see the culmination of all these years of hard work and I see the people around me who have been doing this for so many years, and in particular I want to mention Helen Trend, because after Helen saved that stream, I was attending Cal State Northridge at that time, and I wrote that up as How to Fight City Hall and Win, and I still go and explain what Helen did in 20 easy steps to achieve her goal, and she has left a legacy for everyone. I also look around and see the faces of so many people who are now my friends who have had a dream, and there's a wonderful saying, a dreamer lives forever, and I want all these people to know, and there are many of them here who have contributed in one way or another, that their dream came true. And I also want to quote a saying of Winston Churchill, who saved England in the darkest days. He said, never give up, never, never, never. And I know that the people here know that. Now I would like to talk about the Rim of the Valley Trail. I'm short and it's hard to reach this, but I want to thank Joe Edmondson. If you'll look at the booth over here, thank you. Can you do it? Thank you. There's many publications of the Conservancy over there about the Rim of the Valley. They're trying their best to complete it, both for the animals who use it at night and the people who use it in the daytime. And I'm sure that someday this dream will also come true. And Chatsworth Park South, or the Santa Susana Historical Park, is an anchor at the northwest corner of this whole trail, and it's such an important part of the Rim of the Valley. And again, I want to congratulate everyone involved for all they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Marge. I'd now like to introduce Loretta Ditlow to tell us a little bit about the early days.
Yeah. Hi. Okay. I want to say something about Chatsworth High School. I was a teacher there from 1967 to 1992, and please call on the teachers. Go over there and lobby the teachers. If you're going to lobby City Hall, lobby the teachers to get help, because we have a lot of great kids over there. As you know, Kent Kilgroup came from there. Is Kent here today? He was one of your very best workers. Also, speaking about the early days with Nancy Rosansky, that was when Chatsworth High School came into the fore. That was in 1971 and 72, the school year in which we were planning these hikes. And we had all our students over here, and it was Mary Gilmet, Kathy Gilmet, Colin Gilmet. Do you remember those people? Remember those people? They were here, and they had a huge festival, and we got $5,000 seed money for you, which we gave to Jan for the park. And so it's very, very important to go ahead and ask them. I also want to talk about some people, such as Dan Priest. You know, Dan Priest, we know him very well. I live now over in Brentwood. I don't live in Chatsworth anymore. So then, Dan Priest is over there with Topanga State Park and with Will Rogers State Park. And he has helped us so much over there, and now he's retiring. You've just met him for just a very brief moment. We've had him for many, many years. Thank you, Dan. Okay, you want to give it to him now?
Sure. You know, wouldn't you know, when you get up here, sometimes you forget to do everything you should. Okay.
We're both short. Here, there.
We have a certificate of excellence for Dan Priest for all his help, and Joanne Carbatas, and we should be getting some others ready shortly. These people have really helped us, and it really helps to have professionals helping you. Thank you very much.
You're going to give it to him now? Thank you, Dan. When do you retire now, Dan?
End of July.
He's going to leave the end of July. Okay, I will do that. Okay, then I wanted to thank Joe Edmonston, who's over here in the corner, because now when I'm over in Brentwood, Joe and I are trying to get 1,700 acres into the state park. This is a picture I'm going to put over here on the counter, which shows you the early people who fought for the park. Thank you.
Thank you, Greta. I'm told the cake is melting, and also it's always good to actually get into the park and not just sit nearby and talk about it. So we'll wrap up quickly. I'm going to bring Jan Hinkston up here. We've heard her name a few times today, and then we're going to cut the cake. Jan, would you come on up here? One thing I have to give away today is a certificate of special commendation to Jan Hinkston. This is one that I put together, and we reserve these for very, very, very few and special friends of California State Parks. Be it known that a noteworthy and significant service to the people of the state of California and the California State Park system has been rendered by Jan Hinkston, who has served the people and the parks by her leadership, perseverance, dedication, and hard work to protect and to establish Santa Susana Pass State Historic Park. This contribution to the California State Park system is hereby gratefully acknowledged for the people, and I was honored to sign that. Jan?
Fabulous. My head is miles big because I've been compared with John Muir today. I mean, that's carrying it a little too far. I want you all to know that I know that it wasn't me, it was all of you who have helped and who have spent your time and been willing to serve on the board and done special projects. That's what's made this park happen. I do not take all the credit. So thank you very much for all the kind words that have been said today. I would like to read just a couple of sentences from a passage that was written by this wonderful book called Touch the Earth by McLuhan. They're quotes or stories or interviews with Indians from all over. Some from the coast, some here, some from Sioux. There's one here by Sioux, actually at that time called Lakota, and still is, I guess. This Chief Luther Standing Bear was born in 1868, to give you an idea. And he has said a lot, but this last paragraph says, the old Lakota was wise. And this is why, one of the reasons that I felt so strongly ever since the beginning of this dream. He knew that man's heart away from nature becomes hard. So true. He knew that lack of respect for growing living things soon led to lack of respect for humans too. So he kept his youth close to its softening influence. And I feel so strongly that that is true, and that's why the high school students coming out here to help us in that 1972 hike, which was advertised in Sunset Magazine, which was why we got 10,000 people on 2 consecutive Sundays. And it was a wonderful happening, and the students at the high school helped us a great deal by making signs and all kinds of stuff. And this is why I think that it's so important today, and that this is such a wonderful thing to, a wonderful place to come to finally after all these years. 1970, joined the Sierra Club in 69. We had our first hike in 69, up to the old Stagecoach plaque. I don't know if any of you here were on that, but oh, I'm sorry, taking too long. But anyway, thank you so much for all of this. Thank you for coming, and I, for one, want to see the waterfall after all this rain, and if anybody wants to go on a longer hike, I'm going to go after this is over. So sign up over there. Thank you.
This is just a very brief and quick. We would like a standing ovation for Dan Priest.
Thank you. We're now going to cut the cake, and by the way, that was Doreen Rusin, the president Ex-president. By the way, those shirts and patches are all now collector's items, right? Thank you. We're going to cut the cake now.